Artemis Fowl is a movie for kids, but it's a complicated one with lots going on. There's something for everyone, even adults who will see the movie from a completely different angle. These are the things only adults notice in Artemis Fowl. Young Artemis Fowl is empowered to do the amazing things he does through lack of adult supervision. There aren't any parents around to tell him to be home by 9, or to not wage violent war against an army of magical creatures. As is the case with many literary and movie heroes who are also children, Artemis's parents are noticeably and alarmingly absent. The poor kid's beloved mother is long dead before the events of the movie take place.
There's your dear mother, of course, who was a wonderful woman, in my opinion, and taken from us far too soon.
While his father's absence, prompted by his kidnapping at the hands of a vindictive fairy queen, is the main plot of Artemis Fowl, it's stated that Artemis Sr. frequently leaves home for long stretches of time, much to Artemis Jr.'s resentment and annoyance. In other words, young Artemis is being raised by a largely absent single parent. Adults will wonder who's looking after this kid. A high-maintenance job, what with his genius-level abilities and needs. Sure, there's his bodyguard, Domovoy Butler, but he seems to be more of an adventure cohort than a parental figure who does things like take Artemis to school or make him a meal. One of the highlights of the Artemis Fowl adaptation is Josh Gad as a witty career criminal dwarf named Mulch Diggums. The character serves as both audience surrogate and narrator, explaining the film's elaborate and nuanced fantasy world for newbies, while also participating in the story itself. But Gad's character is a problematic narrator, plot-wise. Much of the story is told via interrogation, and much of the story does not involve Mulch at all. How did he know the ins and outs of a complicated story that he didn't witness firsthand? He certainly wasn't in the room for those tender moments between Artemis Sr. and Jr., for example. This realization could make a savvy viewer question the entire movie. Is the narrator just making stuff up as he goes along? Owen Colfer's first book in the Artemis Fowl series hit bookstores in 2001. During a young adult craze in publishing that made other tales of dark adventure starring kid and teen protagonists into blockbuster hits. Among those phenomena, Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, Twilight, The Maze Runner, and Divergent. Hollywood struck while the proverbial iron was hot, turning all those titles and more into movies as quickly as possible. But it took Artemis Fowl nearly 20 years to jump from page to screen, and the result is a film that would appear to adults who have seen a few other YA adaptations in their day, dated and trite.
Just who do you think you are?
I'm Artemis Fowl, and I'm a criminal mastermind.
So many elements of the film feel like well-worn territory at this point, if not lifted whole cloth from other earlier films. Mulch Diggums bears a striking, if not trademark-violating resemblance to Robbie Coltrane's half-giant gamekeeper Hagrid from the Harry Potter movies. Young Artemis Fowl dresses in a black suit and sunglasses and adopts a nonchalant attitude, which is straight out of Men in Black. The mysteriously hooded villain seems to have stepped right out of Star Wars, while the huge war between multiple magical races is very much a Lord of the Rings thing. And then there's Judi Dench, who plays a powerful governmental figure, not unlike the character she's played in so many James Bond movies. Artemis Fowl is about a clashing of races. Fairies, elves, goblins, trolls, and other magical beings factor into the film. But adults watching just might notice an uncomfortable racial dynamic among the human characters. Young Artemis's chief cohort and collaborator in his adventures is Domovoy Butler. In Colfer's books, the character is of Eurasian background, but in the film, African actor Nonso Anozie landed the part, thus creating a relationship of servitude between a character who is white and one who is a person of color. There aren't many non-white people in the movie anyway, and the most prominent one is a servant, and who dies temporarily while seeing to the wishes of his white child boss. It makes for awkward viewing, to say the least. The film's non-juvenile audience will likely include a lot of parents. Because a 2020 theatrical release was unfortunately impossible, Artemis Fowl debuted on the family-friendly Disney Plus streaming service. It's certain to be a family movie night selection that both kids and adults can agree on, particularly fans of the books and viewers who enjoy fantasy films and action movies. Parents are apt to notice things that non-breeding humans won't, such as how kids grow and change relatively rapidly. To that end, Artemis Fowl's titular star, played by Ferdy Shaw, grows up before viewers' eyes. In some scenes, Shaw appears pint-sized and baby-faced, while in others, he looks like a tween in the early stages of adolescence. And in still other sections of the film, he seems to be a teenager. Of course, Artemis Fowl, like nearly all films, was not shot in sequential order, meaning Shaw looks completely different from one scene to the next. In a 5-minute segment, he may go from older to younger to not quite as old, then back to little once more. As opposed to most kids' movies released in the last couple of decades, Artemis Fowl is almost completely devoid of cheap, easy, and pointless pop culture references. Refreshingly, nobody dabs or sings last year's Song of the Summer, uses an emoji, or mentions Facebook. Artemis Fowl is concerned with the action at hand, and that has more to do with the history and the 1,000 years of fighting between humans and fairies than it does with the present and the frivolities of the world. That said, there are a couple of jokes about rock stars of the late 20th century. When Mulch sits in prison, he passes the time by listening to tunes on a music box he stole from Holly Short. He rocks out to Foreigner's 1984 power ballad I Want to Know What Love Is, annoying a cellmate. The guy he's speaking to has a speaking voice that sounds just like that of glam rock pioneer David Bowie. Mulch brings up the singer again in conversation with fairy commander Julius Root.
Has anyone ever told you you're like David Bowie if David Bowie were a fairy? So essentially, you're David Bowie?
Adding to the joke, Mulch identifies Bowie as a magical creature millions believed he was.
Do you think the humans will ever find out he was one of us?
Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the bell so you don't miss a single one.